All right, guys. So did you know that there was some January 6th select committee hearings coming up, right? Did you guys know that? Because I didn't know that, right? Because quite honestly, January 6th is not at the top of my mind. I don't care about it at all, okay? And apparently Fox News doesn't care about it, as they're not participating in the media circus that is the January 6th select committee hearings. And they're deciding to skip it. They're like, you know what? We're not going to air this live because we don't think it's all that important to our viewers. Now, of course, Fox News is getting roasted for this, okay? As this opinion article from Mediaite basically argues that Fox News is betraying its own viewers and selling out the country for their disgraceful decision not to air the January 6th hearings. Now, here's the thing. For whatever reason, the mainstream liberal media thinks that this is important, even though it does not have a material effect on anybody's life, right? But unfortunately, that's not going to stop the cackling hands in mainstream liberal media TV shows like The View from talking about January 6th. However, this time around, they get owned, right, and schooled by a black conservative, Miss Lindsey Granger, who has basically owned them quite a bit anytime she comes on the show on how irrelevant January 6th is compared to the problems that Americans are facing every day. So I want to talk about that because they get schooled on this once again. I love when The View gets schooled. But before we get in that, I have to give a special shout out and thank you to the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Now, over the years, you've probably tried different investments in stocks and mutual funds. So you know they can be up and down all over the place. But with inflation running at 8.5%, its highest rate for 40 years, do you need uncertainty? Being able to sleep at night knowing your investments aren't about to crash is worth its weight in gold. And speaking of gold, if you've been jumping from one investment idea to the next, a gold IRA with Noble Gold is perfect. With gold, you shield your gains from taxes. You keep the real value of your wealth. You own a global asset, something tangible, and you protect your wealth against an economic crash. What's not to like? And this month, for every cash deal above $20K, you'll get an incredible 3-ounce Silver American Virtue coin completely free. As a thank you, you can't go wrong with Noble Gold. Call 877-646-5347 now to find out more or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get into this video of Miss Lindsey Granger setting the view straight on January 6th and these irrelevant hearings. Take a look.
Watch that. So people understand exactly what happened. And so what is the smoking gun here? What is the breaking news?
Well, that's what we're waiting for.
People will turn in once the Department of Justice says, okay, here are the charges.
Well, I have to disagree with you there.
Let me finish. We want some criminal charges if that's what you want. That's what we'll see next. We're not even going to see that in these 9 hearings.
No.
And then if we think about the actual intention of this, there's a sentiment that Democrats need to rebrand this midterm message, right? So by airing this, you're going to remind everybody like, hey, Trump is aligned with other conservatives, and even though that's not always true, there's plenty of people who spoke out against this. And so now, reminder, don't vote for these people in the midterms because you want to keep the majority. And I think that that is a losing message by looking in the past and not looking in the future, because there's things on top of mind for people. There are things like feeding your baby, which I talked about yesterday. There are things on top of mind like people wanted to know if a recession is looming. There are things on top of mind like wondering how to pay for your gas.
I think Americans are smart enough. I think Americans are smart enough to be able to have more than one thought in their head about what's going on. Hold on. Now, you just, I heard you. I understand. But I think that we do a disservice to the public when we suggest that they're not thinking about those things as well. They are. And Americans know here are the things that are going on. But we also want to know that when we go to sleep, we're not going to wake up in some new country. And I think people want to know that, and they want to see that somebody is doing something. So I think we're going to have to watch and see. We're going to have to watch and see. None of us have both. No. None of us have crystal balls. That's got to see. Right. to see what's coming. None of us will know. Yeah. We won't know until Thursday.
Well, the reason I think when you raise the thing about people have more, they're thinking about their meals, inflation, baby formula, I agree. And then I stop and say, but without a democracy, this could so easily become what Ukraine is going through, what Russia's going through, where it could get worse than it is right now if we're not watching. Yes. Because you don't want this to repeat itself.
No, Whoopi. What actually is a disservice to the American people is focusing on January 6th, an event that, again, just objectively speaking here, it doesn't have any effect on anybody's life, okay? Most Americans are unaffected by January 6th. I'm sorry. You're doing a disservice by focusing on that and acting like that is a serious issue. Having mainstream media outlets cover that when we have a crime crisis, a border crisis, an inflation crisis, energy crisis, gas price crisis. We got a foreign policy crisis. We got crisis going on in the White House. We got crises everywhere. Crises across the board. We're about to go into a recession. People are hurting economically. Okay, I mean, gas is almost $5 a gallon on average across the country. $5 a gallon.
And you might be asking yourself, okay, how is this impacting President Joe Biden? Look at his job performance on gas prices. You don't have to be a mathematical expert to know that 31% is a very, very bad number. The vast majority, more than 2/3 of Americans, disapprove of Joe Biden's job on gas prices, Jake. Joe Biden's job performance on inflation, look at that, just 28%. Disapproval rating, 2/3 of Americans disapprove of Joe Biden's job performance on inflation. And, you know, that is a very, 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 very bad number when what is the most urgent issue facing Americans? Look at that. Inflation, 33%, the clear runaway there. 3 times as many folks who said abortion. And you might have remembered immigration was something that Republicans were going to want to hit on in this midterm election, but just 7% say that. They're much wiser refocusing on inflation. And if you watch Republican messaging, they're exactly doing that, Jake.
Okay. And you're sitting in here telling us that, you know, we must believe that Americans can worry about just more than one issue at a time. They can also worry about January 6th. No, nobody has the money to worry about January 6th. Americans can't afford it. They can't afford it. Okay? Because at the end of the day, January 6th has nothing to do with putting money in Americans' pockets. It has nothing to do with the fact that every month, right, our dollars are getting more worthless, right? They're losing value. People are struggling to get baby formula. But again, Whoopi and The View, they want you to worry about January 6th. And Lindsey Granger here set them straight on that and let them know exactly what I just said. Americans are simply not worried about it. And this is not a winning strategy for the Democrat Party. It's not. Because if it was a winning strategy for the Democrat Party, their poll numbers would be better, right? They wouldn't be getting projected to get blown out in the midterms.
Joins us live. Harry, if you're a Republican running for re-election or trying to unseat a Democrat, things are looking pretty good, right?
I would say they're looking very good from a historical context. So basically, I took the best Republican positions on the generic congressional ballot at this point in midterm cycles since 1938. That generic ballot basically is, would you vote for the generic Republican or generic Democrat in your district? And guess what? Since 1938, the Republican 2-point lead on the generic congressional ballot is the best position for Republicans at this point in any midterm cycle in over 80 years. It beats 2010 when Republicans were up a point. It beats 2014, 2002, 1998 where Democrats led by a point. And in all of those 4 prior examples that make this list of the top 5, look at that. Who won a majority? It was the Republicans who won a majority. Now, of course, the election is not being held tomorrow, and we'll see. Sometimes history isn't always prologue. But my estimate for the 2023 House makeup, if the election were held today, which again, it isn't, we still have 5 months from tomorrow, would be Republicans 236 seats to 241 seats, Democrats 194 to 199. That's based off of a formula of seat-to-seat race ratings from both the Cook Political Report and Inside Election.
That is a stomping, or that would be a stomping.
Yes, it would.
We'll see if it happens.
I mean, yeah, with the way things are looking, it's definitely going to happen. But again, Democrats can get stomped. The mainstream liberal media, they can barely get views. They're getting blown out to Fox News. Well, again, why is that? Because all they talk about is January 6th, January 6th, January 6th, and people don't care. Democrat viewers don't care. Liberals don't care. They care more about what Tucker Carlson's talking about than they do about what Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon or Brian Seltzer or Joy Reid is talking about. Right? Again, why is that? Because they're not wasting time talking about stupid issues that don't have a material effect on the average everyday person like January 6th. Right? So again, Lindsey Granger is 100% correct here, but the cackling hands on the View, the liberal View, they got to push back and try to act like that, Lindsey Granger is wrong and that January 6th is so important because democracy is under attack, right? We can't have a democracy. And it's like, bruh, again, if you people actually really believed in democracy, you would have talked about the John Durham trial, right? You would have talked about the fact that a Clinton campaign official literally admitted that Hillary signed off on them going public with the Russian collusion hoax. But that wasn't mentioned. Right? The View didn't talk about that at all. Well, why is that? Because they don't really care about democracy. And that damn sure was an attack on democracy, right? That was an attack on democracy. But hey, you know what? It is what it is. Democrats and liberal media, they can dig their own graves because that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing when they rather focus on these silly issues like January 6th than actual real issues that are affecting American citizens like inflation and gas prices and the border and crime. Fox News focuses on those things. That's what they talk about all day. And then they wonder why Fox News gets viewership. Well, they get viewership because they're talking about issues that people care about. But they chalk it up to, well, it's just white supremacy, right? It's just white supremacy. So again, as long as they keep misdiagnosing, right, the issues, right, that American people care about, as long as they keep ignoring the things that people care about, as long as they keep blaming everything on white supremacy, then they're going to continue to lose. That is what's going to happen. So just keep doing that, right? Keep pretending like things like January 6th actually matter to the American people. You will continue to stay irrelevant, lose viewership, and Democrats will get blown out in the midterms and in 2024 as well, too. So, hey, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.